Hey there, team. Today I'm going to read you a folk tale, a native folk tale from Oaxaca, Mexico. So, indigenous peoples passed this story from generation to generation in Oaxaca, Mexico, and it's called The Woman Who Outshone the Sun. The day Lucia Zenteno arrived, everyone in the village was astonished. No one knew where she came from, yet they all saw that she was amazingly beautiful and that she brought thousands of dancing butterflies and brightly colored flowers on her skirt. She walked softly yet with a quiet dignity, her long unbraided hair flowing behind her and her loyal pet iguana at her side. No one knew who she was, but they did know that nothing shone as brightly as Lucia Zenteno. Some people said that Lucia Zenteno outshone the sun. Others said that her glorious hair seemed to block out the light from the sun. Everyone felt a little bit afraid of someone so wonderful and yet so strange. They didn't know what to think of her, just because she was different. There used to be a river that ran by the town, almost the same river that runs by there now, and people said that when Lucia Zenteno went there to bathe, the river fell in love with her. The water rose from its bed and began to flow through her shining black hair. And look, even the fish jumped out. And then you can still spy her little iguana. When Lucia finished bathing, she'd sit by the river and comb out her hair with a comb made from the wood of the mesquite tree. And when she did, the water, the fish, the otters, and all the other sea creatures would flow out of her hair and return to the river once again. The old people of the village said that although Lucia was different from them, she should be honored and treated with respect. She understood the ways of nature, they said. But some people did not listen to the elders. They were afraid of Lucia's powers, which they did not understand, and so they refused to answer Lucia's greetings or offer their friendship. They called her cruel names and spied on her day and night. Is that a very nice thing to do? Lucia did not return the meanness of the people. She kept to herself and continued to walk with her head held high. Her quiet dignity angered some of the people. They whispered that Lucia must be trying to harm them. People became more afraid of Lucia, and so they treated her even more cruelly. Finally, they drove her from the village altogether. So just because someone's different, just because you don't understand their way of life, does not mean we should be mean or cruel to them. Or drive them out of the city. Oh my. Lucia went down to the river one last time to say goodbye, and as always, the water rose to greet her and began to flow through her glorious hair. But this time, when she tried to comb the river out, the river would not leave. So, when Lucia Zenteno left the village, the river, the fish, the otters, and other sea creatures went with her, leaving only a dry, winding riverbed, a serpent of sand where the water had once been. Everyone saw that Lucia Zenteno was leaving and that the river was leaving with her. The people were filled with despair. They had never imagined that their beautiful river would ever leave them, no matter what they did. Where once there had been green trees and cool breezes, now no more rain fell, no birds sang, no otters played. The people and their animals suffered from thirst. People began to understand as never before how much the river, the fish, the otters, the trees, the birds had all meant to the village. They began to understand how much the river had loved Lucia Zenteno. The elders said that everyone must search for Lucia and beg for her forgiveness. Some people did not want to. They were too afraid. But when the drought continued, a drought means there's no rain or no water. The drought continued. Everyone finally agreed to follow the elders' advice, so the whole village set out in search of Lucia Zenteno. After many days of walking, the people found the iguana cave where Lucia had gone to seek safety. Lucia was waiting for them, but they could not see her face. She had turned her back to the people who treated her so rudely. At first, no one dared say a word. Then 2 children called out, "Lucia, we've come to ask for forgiveness. Please have mercy on us and return our river." Lucia Zenteno turned and looked at the people. She saw their frightened, tired faces, and she felt compassion for them. At last she spoke. "I will ask the river to return to you," she said, "but just as the river gives water to all who are thirsty, no matter who they are, so you must learn to treat everyone with kindness, even those who seem different from you." Wow, powerful words. The people remembered how they had treated Lucia, and they hung their heads in shame. Seeing that the people were truly sorry for what they had done, Lucia returned with them to the village and began to comb out her hair. She combed out the water, the fish, the otters, and the other sea creatures, and she kept on combing until the river had returned once more to where it belonged. The people were overjoyed to have their river again. They poured water over themselves, over the animals. They jumped in the river. They laughed and cried with happiness. In all the excitement, no one noticed at first that Lucia had disappeared again. When the children asked the elders where she had gone, the elders replied that Lucia had not really left them. Though they would not be able to see her, she would always be there, guiding and protecting them, helping them to live with love and understanding in their hearts. So, the story of Lucia Zenteno and what the Oaxacan indigenous people of Mexico were trying to say through this story is not that Lucia Zenteno was real or that this is a true story, but the moral of the story, or the main idea and main point, is that you treat everyone with respect, kindness, even if they're different, and maybe you don't understand them, you treat them the right way. Treat people the way you'd want to be treated, and also treat nature the way you'd want to be treated. Don't take anything for granted or anyone for granted. And that's a lesson we can all live by, and that's what this story is all about. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you could learn from it too. Adios, amigos.